Sarah, real question here. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
readjust
what's up?
myself.
Okay.
Are you black?
Yeah, I am. Are you?
And that's what we're gonna answer today on the Cousin
Connection
Podcast.
I don't know how I didn't laugh the whole time. I hope you guys liked our little intro. We literally just made that up.
Okay, but for real, it is February, and hopefully my mic doesn't get away from me.
Is that why you wore that shirt?
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me?
Well, I forgot. I was actually going to tell you. I completely forgot. If you don't know, for the audio listeners, I'm wearing my Ethiopian shirt. Well, I don't even know what you would call it. What would you call this shirt?
It looks
It's
like
a shirt I got in Ethiopia that has like Ethiopian designs
it's a
on
Habasha
it. Habasha
lips.
Yeah, like what you see farmers wear.
Okay, no.
Is it not?
No, it's like traditional wear. It's a traditional
wear.
Ethiopian.
Okay, that's racist. I just
yeah.
excuse my own people.
You really were. That was a little racist.
Okay.
Not during Black History Month.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
You know? No, but for real though. So we're gonna get into I thought it would be appropriate for this, since it is Black History Month, to kind of get into that part of our identity.
Yeah.
And sort of like not the issues we have, but like the false sense of identity we have with the Black community sometimes. Does that make sense? Or not false sense of identity, but like almost like how. And maybe this is not how you feel, but I feel sometimes where like, you kind of feel like you're in the Black community, but like almost like you have one foot out the door in a way. Not really out the door, but like you're not in there completely, but you are there. You're just in the back.
Yeah, let's dissect that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, you guys know what to do. If you're listening, pause for a moment, head on over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button, because I see a lot of you guys, okay? I follow up on the stats. You guys watch, but you don't subscribe.
Exactly.
Thank you to those who have subscribed, by the way. And our regular commenters, we see you, we appreciate you, we love you. And while you're also
I don't know about love.
Okay, we have a deep adoration for you. But while you're at it, by the way, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Our TikTok is booming right now. Just saying, we have a viral video. Okay,
400,000 on the last video. I'm just
exactly.
Saying, okay.
Get us to 10K. We're halfway to 10,000 followers on TikTok. We are so close to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, guys, and we're so close to 4,000 followers on Instagram. Like we're growing the cousin family, honestly.
Slowly but steadily, guys. We're getting there, okay?
Exactly.
Remember, I think I said last time the goal is like 10,000 at the end of the year, by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So you can help with that by hitting that subscribe button.
If you want to be under the 10K club, now's your chance. Exactly.
Now let's get back to business here. So Sarah, on a scale of Daniel Caesar to Dr. Umar Johnson, how Black would you say you are?
See, that scale's a bit unfair to me because I don't know who Umar or Omar?
Dr. Umar Johnson. You don't know who Umar Johnson is? He's like one of the most pro-Black people you can ever find.
Is he a hotep? Now that I know what that is.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Oh,
like
is he?
Very similar. I actually wouldn't consider him a hotep because he doesn't really do all that like the spiritual side of the hotep thing, but he does like severely promote. Not severely. What do I say? He really does promote like Black everything.
Blackism.
In that he'll judge you if you marry someone who's not Black. If you're Black, he'll judge you if you marry someone who's not Black. He says Black men should only marry Black women, and vice versa. And like we should be. And there are positive things like you should only be spending your money on Black businesses.
All right.
What?
I'll tell you where I land on that scale.
Yeah,
it's definite.
You know what the reference I'm making with Daniel Caesar is, right?
I actually don't, but I was.
Well, Daniel Caesar he's a singer, and he was canceled a couple years ago because,
is that why we haven't heard of him?
I think it's also because like he's like one of those artists that kind of like go missing for a bit and then they come back.
Yeah.
But this sort of had something to do with it, where at least in the Black community sense, where he's basically like that Black guy who like lets all his white friends say the N-word around him.
No way.
Yeah, like that kind of Black guy.
Daniel Caesar is also Canadian, right?
Yeah, he's from Toronto. So like that,
interesting.
When I say that type of Black person, so we technically haven't gone into like whether we consider ourselves black, which we do.
We do.
You know, just that was kind of a joke of being, but like, I would consider myself black. But we'll kind of dissect what that means to us. But yeah, so when I say that scale, like, who would you say you relate more to?
Neither.
Would you say you're more in the middle, like you're a moderate?
Yeah, I would say I'm in the middle.
Like, you've never let your white friends around you get away with saying the N-word around you?
Hell no. Listen, okay, I used to let me just tell you guys.
Yeah.
In elementary school, this is very problematic, okay? And it's actually very problematic. Like, I don't encourage it, but I'm just saying I wouldn't let the kids in my class say the N-word because I was like, guys, I am a double threat. I'm black and I'm Muslim, okay? And my dad is Muhammad Ali. So either I'll get my niggas to beat you up or I'm gonna fuck you.
What are you? What? You racist?
I literally used to say that, which is so problematic. Okay, guys, like, it's actually it was a problem back then. People used to fear me because
Wait,
of
you
it.
actually said that?
Yeah, hell yeah, I said it. 100% I said it.
It's like, is this like post 9/11?
Post 9/11, yes.
Oh my God,
because I was about like 11 or 12.
You're making it harder out here for all the other Muslims. Okay,
I know, but
perpetuating stereotypes.
I know, but they feared me and it worked. So no one ever messed with me then.
Yeah.
But I definitely, like, whether it was then and now, I don't like, if you're not black, you shouldn't be saying the N-word.
Yeah.
I personally say it. I know some black people choose to not say it, and to each their own. I won't judge you either way if you're black and you say it or you don't say it. But I don't appreciate black people who act like, oh, you're setting, what do they say? Like, you're
setting us back.
Yeah. I'm like, how am I setting you back?
Yeah.
Every time I say the N-word, am I bringing slavery back? No. That's probably really problematic too.
Whatever. Okay.
I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, I understand the I feel like when it's said amongst black people, it's not said in a derogatory way. Yeah. It's more so to express camaraderie. Yeah. If it's another race,
I didn't know this was going to turn into the N-word argument, but you know.
No, it just started off that way, I guess. But like, you know, if it's another race that usually sees themselves as superior to black people and they say it to a black friend, you could just call them a friend. Why do you got to use the N-word? Now, I don't always say it, obviously, like in a professional atmosphere. Like, I'm not going to be in the office like, yo, what up, my nigga? Like, dabbing all the black people. Yeah. And then handshaking all the normal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you do that, though. Yeah.
You do the black person nod. Like,
yeah, hey, I feel like it's more of a guy thing, the dapping ups thing. Like, do girls dap each other up?
No.
Yeah. What do you guys do? You just like, hey. You're like,
no, we hug.
Oh, yeah, hugging. I forgot about that whole aspect of it.
You know what kind of bothers me, though?
What?
And you won't get it because you're not a girl.
What?
But like, girls who are listening to this and are black, if someone who's not black says to you like, hey girl, how are you? Or tries to use what's that new acronym? African American
Vernacular.
Yes.
AAVI.
Yes.
Or AAV. What was the I for? African American Vernacular. There's like a fourth letter. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but you know what we mean.
Yeah.
Does that bother you when your non-black friends use that type of terminology with you?
No, that's why I wouldn't say I'm like completely on like the Daniel Caesar side. Like, I won't let them like a white person say the N-word around me. Yeah. But like, if they start saying like, you know, I guess it depends on like how they're saying it.
What if they're not white though? Because I'd be hearing a lot of y'all who are not white saying the N-word, and I'm side-eyeing you. Like, why are you saying it? You're not black.
But the thing is that like the black community has been so loose with who they give that card to.
They shouldn't be giving it to anyone who's not black, period.
But like, that's why people are so confused on like, okay, like you let like 6ix9ine say it, and that guy's Mexican.
Who let him say it?
He was literally one of the biggest rappers in the world at one point.
And he never got canceled?
What?
He never got canceled for it?
No, it's because he just grew up with a lot of black people, so he was automatically, or not automatically, but they kind of just let him get a blight from that, and they just let him pass.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't listen to him ever, so I didn't know that he ever said it.
Yeah,
so.
But it's weird how sometimes they police certain people who actually do have some like black lineage. They may not be presenting as black, but they might, and they use that word, but they get heat for it. But then when someone who's not black at all, but has grown up around black people and lives within that community is given the pass, like I feel like there's a double standard there. There's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to. That's why that whole debate for the N-word thing is like so kind of not awkward, but like still. I don't really say it that much, but like it's like
You say it in songs.
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of like confusion around it.
I don't know.
But
I don't think so.
I think the hard line is like if it's a white person, it's like nah.
If you say it with the ER,
Yeah, okay. If you say it with the ER, even if you're black, I'll look at you different. Okay.
I know. I'd be like, what is it?
Yeah. What?
Like, not what is it? Like, why are you saying that?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but as far as me, when it comes to that scale, I feel like at one point in my life, and sometimes I like kind of like even still play with it. I'm still on like I sometimes like go to that Dr. Umar Johnson side, where I'm like,
Really?
where I'm like, nah, only black everything, black businesses. But okay,
I've never seen that side of you.
well, like that's why I said it's not really me, but like every once in a while, you get radicalized. I don't know. You watch a few TikToks with like black people, and you're like, I'm never looking at another non-black person ever again. But okay, but we all have our days.
Yeah.
But there are like good aspects of what he's saying, but only because he's taken it from people like Malcolm X, who was seen as an extremist in his day. And everyone should go and read his book. I know I mentioned that a bunch of times. It's Autobiography of Malcolm X, which I gave to Sarah literally like 2 years ago, and she still hasn't read it.
You know when he gave it to me 2 years ago when we tried to film this episode?
Yeah, literally. Oh yeah, by the way, so we filmed this podcast, or not filmed it, but we recorded this podcast literally within like the first 5 or 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Of when we started. Mm-hmm. And this was like one of the lost episodes.
It was a really good episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
We liked
I said
it.
a lot of problematic stuff because we were still starting. But like we're kind of rehashing it now, and like just kind of trying to like follow the same notes of what we were talking about then.
You remember what we spoke about 2 years ago?
Yeah, sort of. I did. I mentioned Malcolm X.
Yeah, yeah. You should always do. So.
Exactly, and I mentioned how like he was the first book I read. He was like my way into diving more deeper into my black identity.
Yeah, because after that, you read that other one that had like old English.
W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were obsessed with that book.
Is the book still here? Let me see. I think I literally have it. Yeah.
There it is.
Good. Now I can actually like reference it. But this book right here, The Souls of Black Folk, if you're anyone in the black community, I feel like you should read this book. It's basically like a culmination of like essays that he wrote and poetry, and like I feel like it gives you a real insight into like what black life was like in the early, because this was he read it like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and this is like perfect to get an idea of what life was like back then. Yeah, like not only as a black person, but just like as an individual in general, like what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was definitely like, I think it was literally like right when COVID started.
Yeah.
I think, like near COVID started.
It was like April or something.
George Floyd happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when
I started reading more into it, because like to go into our history with it, like we've always been Muslim first.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like
in terms of your identity?
In terms of our identity. Because, and the reason we've had so much, or the reason I've had so much conflict with the black identity, or like that part of my identity, is that because it's so tied to black culture, which is like a lot of the things.
Sorry, what is tied to black culture?
Huh?
What is tied?
The identity of being black.
Oh, okay.
Like, because I feel like being black and black culture are
synonymous?
Are not the same.
Oh.
Or like, yeah, they're not the same, but they are synonymous at the same time, if that makes sense. Synonymous means like they're usually together, right?
It's one and the same.
They're one and the same. And that's how it's usually presented. But now with the like introduction, or not introduction, but with the rise of a lot of first generation immigrants who come from Africa, who are presenting as black, but don't identify with the black culture at all, or even the black identity to a level.
Well, I think we should specify, right? Because what you're referring to as the black culture is really like African American culture.
African American culture. That's what I mean. Sorry, African American culture. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what black culture is. That's a synonym for black culture. No.
Yeah, I mean, well, because like the way that I see it, if I think of black, it's anyone who's black, no matter where you're from. African American is strictly black people from America.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a very Western conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not something you're going to be talking about in Africa or maybe actually.
I think now.
Where else? Yeah, Africa is really the only place where you wouldn't be having this type of conversation.
Well, you know what? I think that that black culture that you're referring to is like very much inspired by African Americans in America.
Yeah.
Like the culture that was born and raised through, you know, hip hop and rap.
Yeah.
The introduction of that in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know, like, and I guess now in the more recent years, like, the influence on like Black British culture, Somali culture is like really infiltrated into the Black scene.
Yeah,
now
it's more taken over like the vernacular in a way. Would you say Somali culture has made its way into like the acts and like, not the acts, but like, what aspect of their culture has,
like the mannerisms? You mean?
Yeah, like what aspect of their culture has infiltrated like the general
maybe it is the vernacular, but like definitely their terminology is like intertwined within African American vernacular, as you said. Jamaican culture is introduced to that too, or is intertwined with that too.
Yeah.
I think now it's more so of a blend of all the different black, like the ethnicities, the cultures are all blended together. But before it was more to do with like African American culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why we felt so distant from it, because we knew that we had culture as black people, but from Africa. We had Ethiopian culture.
Exactly.
Right? So we were like, okay, that's Ethiopian. This black culture that we're seeing is so anti-Ethiopian and well, it isn't, but like, that's how it was presented to us, right? Like, that's them, this is us type of thing.
Yeah.
Right? So like, it was perceived as like, anti-Islamic, anti-Ethiopian, and so like that's them, this is us, this is our culture, we do it this way. And so maybe that's why we felt that separation of like, are we black? Like our skin is black, but like we don't really fit in with the black people.
I feel like the only thing at one point, it felt like the only thing that we had related to them was the fact that our skin tones were the same.
Yeah.
So that's why there was a lot of that like feeling of your 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I don't know if even African Americans, how they perceive us. Actually, we sort of do have an idea of how they perceive us, because earlier, before like PC culture came out, there were those like jokes about like African booty snatcher, African booty scratcher. That's what it was. Oh. Yeah, and that was like a common term. Like everyone kind of knew that. Not diss. What would you call it? Insult. Or a way to poke at people. So they did have a way of like kind of separating us, or what would you call it, by discriminating us from actual African Americans. So maybe that also added to the fact of why we felt like we were different in a certain way.
Yeah, and I also think like, you know, think of it this way. A lot of like African ethnicities that are first generation for Canada, America, wherever you're listening to this from, a lot of us that are first generation, it's like our parents are immigrating to these countries. They, at the time, a lot of them were like late 80s, early 90s, right? So at the time, that was like the rise of the crack epidemic? The cocaine? What was it?
Yeah, it was crack and cocaine, yeah.
Yeah.
Crack mostly in the black communities.
And so like our parents see this and they're like, we don't want anything to do with getting arrested or gang violence or drugs. And so we're advised, stay away from that. Yeah. Right? So we were advised from a young age, and it's more so out of a place of fear. I think our parents never really felt connected to the black community in that sense, and so they kept to themselves, or they stayed within their own communities. And a lot of other black people did that too, not just Ethiopians, but like every other one that immigrated here that are first generation. And then I would kind of, just to make it easier, I would say African people, if that makes sense. Like ones from Africa.
Yeah.
We could say that. And so they kind of stuck to themselves, didn't want to get involved. It was all from a place of fear. But then when you, like, I think as time progressed, the lines were blurred a bit. They started to get blurrier and blurrier.
I think it's because the kids then, because the one reason that I feel like a lot of the kids in the first generation families started to identify more with the African American culture than their own is because first off, like a lot of the parents who came from Africa, like they didn't have time to teach their kids their own culture. And when they did, like it was here and there, but it was because most of the time they were working. They were trying to make money to support their families.
Right.
And when these kids went to school, like when we went to school, a lot of the times because of like racism and like the people would just naturally segregate, you would find yourself around just a lot of other black people.
Yeah, because
whether they're African American or African or
Yeah.
just African. And then you would just automatically start picking up on that culture and that identity, right? That's why you see a lot of youth now who, especially, I don't know, I haven't seen as much in Canada, but I know in America, like a lot of times we've assimilated a lot more to and related more to the black culture than our African one. And whenever it came to associating with our African identity, like usually I noticed that started like it's almost like it was a half and half, if that makes sense. Like over here, I feel like I always had more of like an 80-20 split, if that makes sense.
Of Ethiopian versus black?
Yeah.
I think because Canada celebrates multiculturalism a little bit more than the States does.
Mm-hmm.
In the States, you're almost like forced to assimilate into American culture.
And I think also racism has a big part to do with it. It's a lot more overt in America.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel like you have to stick with your people.
That's so true.
And they're kind of dealing with it every day. And like it's since I mentioned it's more overt there, like it makes you want to stick together. It's like a team mentality, right? You want to stick together more.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to, you want that group to accept you more. So you're going to change whatever you can about yourself to be.
To talk like them, dress like them.
Yeah,
act
exactly.
like them.
Exactly. But because over here it's more passive and not as overt, we didn't feel like we had to do that. Or at least I personally didn't have to feel like that. I don't want to generalize and say for everyone. And for me personally, I don't know about you.
No, I never really felt like I had to be something that I wasn't. Like, alhamdulillah that we had those types of experiences, because I know that a lot of kids and teenagers aren't always able to be themselves, and so they find that they have to change themselves, and that makes me sad, because I never really felt like I had to be anyone other than myself. Yeah, like I was never, growing up, I went to a school where I was like one of 2 black kids in the whole grade.
Yeah.
And like that wasn't even, it was weird because I know once I moved to Scarborough, shout out to Scarborough, by the way. But when I moved to Scarborough, it was like the demographic of students changed completely. I went from being one of the only black kids to now being like one of many, and there was like 2 white kids in the class.
Yeah.
And then I had culture shock, which is wild.
Oh yeah,
like,
I guess because. And did you feel like you had to like quickly learn to assimilate with those with all the other black kids in the class?
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Because like I went to a school where I was just myself. Yeah. Before, and my blackness, I guess you could say, wasn't so overt, maybe, if you want to say that. Like it wasn't so apparent where I was being called out for it. Yeah. But then when I came to Scarborough and I went to school with a bunch of like ethnic kids, not just black, but like other cultures and ethnicities as well. Yeah. I was being called the whitewashed girl.
And then you felt like you had to kind of like start changing certain things about yourself to be accepted by them more, right?
Yeah. So I was like, how am I whitewashed? It's like, oh, the way that you talk, the way that you dress. Yeah. Like everything. And then, but the crazy thing is like at the time in the other school, I was like, oh, I'm cool. I'm wearing Nikes. Like, you know, I was on the basketball team for like 2 seconds. Yeah. I thought I was cool. But I come to Scarborough and I wasn't. I was humbled real quick, and I was like, oh, okay. So how do you guys talk here? And that's when I learned how to like dabs people. Yeah. I didn't know how to do that before.
Yeah. Because that's also the other aspect of it. Like I mentioned, racism was one side of it that's pushing you to stick together more with your people. But also it's the fact that because you want to be accepted by them, they start pointing out there's like, why do you like dress like that, or why do you talk like that? Yeah. And then you're like, oh, is that wrong? And then just so they stop pointing it out, you start to like change certain aspects about yourself to kind of not stick out. Because the thing at the end of the day, as a kid, as a teenager, when you're going through school, the last thing you want to do is stick out. Yeah. So you want to assimilate as quickly as possible so you're not picked on.
Yeah, but I mean, but the crazy thing is that I also wasn't the only Muslim. So in my old school, I was the only Muslim, or one of the two, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't wear hijab at the time because the one time I did try, I got called out so fast, and I was like, nope, never doing that again.
Yeah.
And then I came to this school, and I was like, whoa, there are a lot of black people, there are a lot of Muslims. So it wasn't even like, oh, you're not black enough. They're like, oh, you don't act like a Muslim, which is weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that they started to call, and I think that's where my identity started to form of like, okay, I'm Muslim first, black second.
Yeah.
That's where I got it at that point. And that was like grade 7, 8.
And that was also a big part of that, not crisis, but like that split between like not assimilating, but associating with the black community and being Muslim, right? Because like if from the outside looking in, if someone doesn't know anything about or is just looking at black culture, it's like you think of it that it's the antithesis to the
Islam?
Muslim Islam, or the idea you think that it's the antithesis, and you would think
you struggling with that one, bro.
you would, okay guys, remember I used to have a lisp. You would think that it was the antithesis to the Islamic identity.
There you go. You got it.
And I think that's how a lot of our parents saw it.
Yeah, 100% they did.
Yeah, which is why they told us to like not hang out with. They were really racist. They would say, "Don't hang out with black people."
I used to, you know what I would say to my parents?
Yeah,
I'm like, but I am black.
Yeah,
like I'm literally black. Like,
exactly, and they didn't see that side of it, right?
Yeah.
So because they were looking it from the outside in.
Did they ever tell you not to sag your pants?
No, I wasn't. I was always like a preppy kid. Like I never was sang my pants like that. I didn't have style. I had no drip, no drip, man. I was wearing graphic tees my whole high school and elementary school career.
You used to wear, what are those shirts called? Polos. Cargo pants were your thing.
Yeah,
you lived in cargo.
Yeah, I really was like not anti, but like I just didn't try to assimilate at all. I was just a nerd.
You were just you.
Yeah, I was just me because I was a nerd. Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, you could have wear.
Yeah, that kind of saved me from all.
yeah, I could see that. I think you, from my perspective, like just looking at you, I feel like you grew into the blackness, like into your 20s.
Yeah, definitely.
That's when you start to like know your black identity.
Exactly. It always, for me, it came very late.
And that's
very
okay.
Late. Yeah, exactly.
That's okay.
But that's also because like, and I feel like it's better to come in it that way, because now that I've still, when I came into it, I like was solidified, or a little bit more solidified in my like Islamic identity. So I wouldn't let too much of the things that we typically shouldn't be partaking in sway me. So like I feel like that really helped to come into it later, because to be like blunt, I guess there are a lot of things that don't really fall in line with like our Islamic identity, right?
Like what? Break it down for us.
Like the music alone.
Yeah.
Right. And what else is it? The celebrations, the dancing, all of that stuff is like not anti, but opposite to what we're usually taught to be doing, right? Especially with how the black culture or African American culture has moved today.
I think the main thing is that Islam teaches you to be modest.
Yeah.
Black culture teaches you to be
expressive,
loud. Yeah. Not aggressive, because I know that there's that stereotype of like aggressive black man or aggressive black woman. No, it doesn't teach you to be that way. That's a stereotype. But I know that it definitely pushes you to be and encourages you to be like comfortable with who you are, which is fine.
Yeah.
So I can see why you like, the fact that you grew into it at a later stage in life. You already solidified your Islamic identity, and now you were just layering on the black identity.
Yeah. And for me, what I like to think African American culture means to me now is like, I think creative, like creativity, versatile, adaptive, like those are like the things that I think of when it comes to black culture. Like I know because there's the music aspect, but like the art that's generated within the Black community is like always what do they call it? Top tier and transformative in some way, right? It's always bringing something new to the game, and I feel like that's a thing that I find that I'm proud of whenever I think about my Black identity.
Yeah, one of my favorite artists, who's also my friend, is a Black artist, and she celebrates Black Muslim women. Hanan's Corner, shout out to her. Yeah, like and her art really popped off during COVID, and I think that's it's, you know what it is. I think we're so used to non-Black art and not being represented that when we finally are represented, we appreciate it so much. Yeah, because you're like, wow, like that looks like me, or I can identify with this.
Yeah, another part of it is acceptance. Like we're more willing to take risks, and like, and we accept more people if they take risks in certain aspects of art and just in their creative side, if that makes sense.
Do you think that's why so many people refer to Kanye as a genius?
Yeah, because he would take risks, like, and a lot of times people make fun of him at first whenever it came out, but then literally a few months later, it's like the next top. It's like the talk of the town. If I guess you could say
he is a trendsetter. I'll give him that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another part that I like about Black culture is trendsetting, right? So in any part of any industry, we're always usually at the forefront of the new trends that are occurring there.
Oh yeah, whether it's dances, music,
yeah,
food, style,
yeah,
you name it, we got it.
Exactly. So it's food too. When it comes, food is another part that I love about my Black identity, like the fact that
our food is seasoned and it's good.
The seasoning and the not versatility, maybe versatility, but like the variety of it, right? And how like it's not like, you know, put in 10 grams of this, 10 grams, you know, you just throw in some spicy. It's all
measure with the heart.
Yeah, you measure with the heart. Exactly, the heart, the soul of it.
Yeah,
the soul of the Black identity. Those are the things that I really relate to.
Same, yeah. I do too, and I think
that's what Black culture or African American culture means to me.
For me, I feel like it's opposite. I think I identified with, like, I always knew I was Muslim growing up as a kid, obviously, but it was like, as a child, I guess it's not so, like, it was more at the forefront of my life during like Ramadan and when I was learning how to pray as a kid. But like before that, I was always Black first because that's the first thing you see. Yeah, I didn't wear hijab, so I wasn't outwardly representing. As a Muslim woman or a Muslim girl at the time. So my identity actually started off as Black. And growing up, like, my brother was really into like hip hop and R&B and rap and stuff. And so I grew up watching BET instead of Much Music. And then, you know, as I got a little bit older and like we would go to Saturday school and learned more about our religion, then my focus shifted to Islam and like focusing on my Islamic identity and as a Muslim woman. And then you get older and like I knew I always had Black in the back, like my Black identity in the back of my mind, but it was like Muslim first. And I think it stayed like that. But now it's like, here's my Islamic identity, here's my Black identity. And it kind of just like became like that. So it's, for me, it's not one and the same, but it is like, if I was to introduce myself to a blind person, they can't see me, they don't know what I look like. I would say, yeah, I am a Muslim. Like I would say I'm a Black Muslim woman. But even though Black is first, Muslim is the first identity.
I think that's just like how we speak. It just comes that's not culture, but just as like grammar wise, it just maybe flows better that way
instead of saying Muslim Black woman.
That's, even though it doesn't really make a difference, like just in your mind, I don't know, just a little bit of like thought in back here, like that just doesn't sound right for some reason. You know what I mean?
But what I mean by that is like, I will always uphold my Islamic values first before my cultural values or my Black quote unquote values.
So after we've said all of this, and I don't know if I'm canceled yet, but after saying all this, do you think we have a right to criticize Black culture? I know it's a hard question. I feel like I have the right to criticize it. It's because the sources I'm pulling from are from people that are originally from the Black community. I'm hoping that from what I'm saying is like I'm trying to push what they originally envisioned.
So it's not your own criticisms.
Yeah, it's not my own criticisms. If I had, I don't know if my own criticisms would be valid because
why not?
Because like I mentioned, like we haven't been truly within.
I think.
Do you feel like you've been fully accepted by the Black community?
Yeah.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Okay, let me think before I speak for a sec.
Okay, go. No, we're gonna be stepping on a lot of shells today.
No, I'm just saying, like, if I'm not Black, then what am I?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not white. I'm not brown.
No, but I'm talking about the Black community.
Yeah.
Not you yourself.
I think unless you actively choose to not partake in within the Black culture, the Black community, like you choose to remove yourself and you just don't associate, then you don't have a right to criticize.
Yeah.
But if you are immersed in it, and you are an active member in the Black community, like you support it, you want to see it thrive, you want to see it do better, and therefore that's why you criticize, then you have the right to criticize. But if you're part of the problem, then sit your ass down.
Yeah. Okay. And no, the reason I was asking that is because, or what I was trying to reference is, like I mentioned earlier, how I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and the reason I identified or like I like that book, the reason I like that book so much is because of the fact that he came into it with the Muslim identity as well, or like the Muslim values as well. And he was like, I feel like the Black community could really prosper and like benefit from looking into this religion, which is Islam, and taking those values and applying them to their own lives. And it was almost proven with I know their teachings weren't correct, but a lot of the values that they upheld were very Islamic, which was the Muslim Brotherhood.
Is that nation?
Sorry, not the. Why do I keep saying the Muslim Brotherhood?
I don't know.
My bad. I meant the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we saw it in New York, how when a lot of Black people started joining the Nation of Islam, like their employment rates went up, and like they started having a lot of 2-parent households, like and they all started like Black businesses were doing better, and just overall the Black community was becoming a force to be reckoned with, essentially, where people didn't feel like they could mess with them as much, especially in New York, where it was like the biggest. Of course, it started popping up around the whole country, but and then unfortunately they had the whole split where they were told like, hey, you got to fix your teaching. They're like, nah. And then Malcolm X was unfortunately killed for that because he ended up finding the real Islam, I guess. But ultimately, his aspirations for the Black community, I feel like, still can be seen, or like should be strived for.
You know what it is? I think when the basic principles of Islam were introduced to the Black community, as we know, we're Muslim, right? So when we always talk about how Islam is like our guidebook, it's our way of life, and it really, if you follow the rules of Islam and you follow the teachings and you really look into it, outside of what the mainstream media teaches you about it, it encourages you to be your best self.
Yeah.
Right? Like it teaches you to be modest, but it also like, I feel like the community, once Islam was introduced to them, like it gave them like a sense of like order. Like, like it gave them what's the word in English? I can think of it in Gaysinan.
What is it in Gaysinan?
Like sinasirat.
Oh, I don't even know how to translate that.
But like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it gives them adab.
Yeah.
How do you say adab?
Discipline.
Discipline.
Yeah.
It gives you discipline. So, Islam comes into their lives, all of a sudden their employment rate goes up. They have 2-parent incomes or even households. They have like successful businesses. They're doing better in life. Islam's the answer, y'all.
That's what essentially I'm trying to get to. But it's unrealistic, of course.
Is it though? I don't think it is. Islam?
I do see. The conversion rates have been going up a lot recently, and especially in the Black communities. At least from what I've seen. I don't know, on TikTok actually like just pushes a lot of stuff towards you, so like it may seem like something's going on or there's a lot more bigger than it really is.
No, I mean, it is one of the fastest growing religions, so
yeah. And you can see like there are a lot of examples of people within the entertainment industry or just like within the African American community who are Muslims. Of course they may not practice as much as
well, if we talk about Hollywood for a split second,
yeah,
I think there's a reason why they don't speak on their religious beliefs openly, because Hollywood is, unless you identify as like a white Christian, it's not that secular.
Yeah.
So they have to remove their and you don't want to be Islam.
It is secular. Secular means that it has no.
It is secular. Is what I meant.
It is secular.
Sorry, yes, that's what I mean. And it's not really like people don't preach their faith like that much in Hollywood.
Well, I guess so. You did give the stipulation of they're Christian, because whenever they're Christian, they'll go all out and there's no one will bat an eye.
No,
right.
If
you say Allahu Akbar on stage once,
I think the only one who can get away with that is DJ Khaled. It's weird.
I guess so.
like
yeah,
Khaled, whatever.
But I feel like that's going to be changing too. Like with good examples like Khabib Nurmagomedov. I know it's not within Hollywood.
Whoa.
What?
That's how you say his last name?
Yeah. You never knew that? Well, if you know, he was the which
is
was he lightweight? He was a champion in the UFC. He had a 27-0 record. He never lost a match.
Wild.
And he was very upfront with his Islamic identity, and like he started everything with Alhamdulillah. He always made sure that everyone knew he was Muslim, and he promoted it through that. And
well, sports is different though, because look at soccer. Like the Moroccan team took the world by
so.
storm.
Yeah. It always starts with sports, and then it slowly starts to seep its way into other forms of entertainment.
Yeah.
At least that's what I feel like.
I don't know. DJ Khaled is the only one that's like openly speaking on the fact that he's Muslim.
Is he?
DJ Khaled?
Yeah.
He was literally doing Umrah like maybe 2 months ago.
I guess so. Yeah.
Mike Tyson, but he's another sports person. They were together.
Yeah.
But other than that, like what other singer, rapper, artist, actor can you think of that's Muslim?
Did you ever see that show We Are Lady Parts?
No.
Well, apparently not apparently. There's a show called We Are Lady Parts.
Oh, with a bunch of like Muslim people in there.
Yeah,
I didn't watch it, but I saw the trailer and I was like, this is
same.
I want to watch
exactly. Okay, you know what? We're gonna have to get into that.
Yeah.
Because I thought maybe you knew about it.
I did see I know about it. I saw the trailer, but it kind of put me off a little. I don't know what it was.
Okay, maybe we'll watch it and then give our take on it later.
Okay.
But we kind of went on a tangent here. What were we originally talking about?
We were talking about
representations of Muslims.
Yes.
And representation of Black Muslims within the community.
Speaking on that.
Yeah.
Did you watch the new Netflix movie called You People?
No, not yet.
Do you know the premise of the?
I know the dad is supposed to be Muslim, right? Or Eddie Murphy's supposed to be Muslim, right?
Yeah. So what's the whole family?
The whole family is Muslim. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and the guy's family, Jonah Hill's family, they're Jewish.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like they're white and black.
Yeah.
Muslim and Jewish, like very polar opposite families.
Yeah.
And they're trying to see like how they get together.
I don't know. That's the thing, because whenever they do Muslim representation.
Oh, there was no like.
Yeah, they never do it right.
There was no. There were like little sprinkles of Islam in there. Yeah. Like for example, Lauren's
dad.
Yeah, when she was telling her dad that she like met a guy or something.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, is he Muslim?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, is he Sunni or nation?"
What? Oh.
Yeah, I was like, Sunni or like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, all right.
And wait, but she said but he was Jewish? Oh, she was lying to him.
She was lying to him.
Oh, okay.
But even then, like, for example, there's a scene where the families, like, the guy's family comes over to her family. They have dinner together. Yeah. And he goes, "Let's say grace." I'm like, huh?
What?
Muslims don't say grace. But he basically made a dua.
What? I guess dua, like, the technically the translation of dua is grace.
Yeah, I guess.
So, is it grace? I think it would be. Yeah, because essentially it's the same thing. You're just not putting your
He was
hands
just giving
up.
thanks to Allah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Okay, I need to watch that movie. Apparently,
Yeah.
everyone else has watched it, but I haven't yet.
There are mixed reviews,
I
but
haven't had time yet.
we will speak on it when Amir watches it.
Okay,
because I don't want to give it away.
exactly.
Right
Let's
now.
get back to the points here,
Yes.
okay?
But
We
I
talked
was just
about-
trying to say, like, that's a mainstream movie, and they kind of sprinkled Islam into it.
Yeah. Okay. But our original point was, can we criticize?
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we can too, as long as we come to it from like everyone should come at not from a place of judging, but like from a place where you want to see things improve. Because there are people who would criticize but not give solutions.
Yeah, if you're not participating, and if
yeah,
you're not an active member in the Black community,
or at least if you're not putting forward solutions. If you're not putting
Yeah.
forward solutions and just
Mhm.
criticizing, at that point you're just what they call antagonizing, or just you're not really adding anything to the situation.
yeah. But I also just think, like, if you're not in
Mm-hmm.
it, you can't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Because, like, who are you to speak on it?
Yeah, yeah. What do you say about those people who are Black, but like they are Black as in like they appear Black, but they deny that they are Black, or they don't want to associate with the Black community at all?
I mean, I feel sorry for them because I feel like there's a part of them that's not fully accepting of their own identity.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they need to just uncover that. Like, why don't you identify with being Black? Like, what is it that's making you not want to
Mm-hmm.
identify with it? Is it the bad parts? Because let me give you a reality check. Every single race and every single culture,
Mm-hmm.
all of them have bad parts to their group as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, like, I don't know. And I'm not, that's an assumption, right? Like, there could be many reasons why someone doesn't consider themselves as Black, but
Mm-hmm.
like,
Well, when you're walking down the street and a cop sees you with your hoodie up, it doesn't matter if you identify as Black or not. I'm just saying.
I know, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't get it,
Yeah.
but maybe we can have a conversation with someone, but I don't think they'll ever
Mhm.
come forward and be like, yeah, that's me. Let's talk.
Now that we know we can why are you tearing up? This
'Cause
is
I
a really
just
hard
yawned.
conversation.
I yawned and I tried to not open my mouth.
Do you feel what do you feel like you would like to see change within the African American community and
So
the
as-
Black community in totality?
So as I was saying, I still feel like within the Black community there is somewhat of a divide amongst the ethnicities,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it would be great to see more support from each other,
Mm-hmm.
like the same way that other races really ride for each other. Like, I would love to see that from Black people. And
Do
I
they
think-
though? Because I know like the Asian community, and when I say Asia, I mean like because the Asian community is so large.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Southeast Asian or
Yeah.
like
So like
The other
East
Asian.
Asian, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, East Asian, would that be like China? Those
yeah,
places?
yeah.
So like the East Asian community, they hate. There are certain ethnicities within that group that hate each other,
Yeah, that's true. But I
Yeah.
feel like
or they just don't like associating with each other.
the Southeast Asian community. I think when
Mhm.
you're thinking about specifics, like, yes, if they get into politics,
Yeah.
all that, like, yeah, whatever, they'll bicker. But if it's like the grand scheme of things,
Mhm.
they love supporting each other, and I love that. I
Mhm.
think that's really beautiful, and I think that we do it on a small scale. Like, yes, now you briefly touched on like supporting black owned businesses,
Yeah.
and I think we're starting to get to that point.
Mhm.
But like, to see more of it, like, we've discussed this specifically about social media and like how Black creators are at such a big disadvantage
Mhm.
compared to their white counterparts.
Yeah.
But
You're basically
to
hitting the
see-
notes I'm trying to get to.
It's that cousin connection. But like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
to be able to support one another on a grand scale
Mhm.
would be so nice to see.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing for the African community, because like, of course, this is a very American centric conversation too,
Yeah.
because like they're the ones who dictate the culture, and then that's shipped out to the rest of the world.
Mm.
So if you want to make the change, it has to start at the start at home.
Mm.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing. Would mean like the ultimate goal is for there to be a Black caucus formed from this. So like, you know how the Jewish community, they usually vote as a base together. That's why they always talk about like the Jewish vote. The Christian community, right? Well, Jewish is also a religion and an ethnicity at the same time.
Is it? This an ethnicity?
Yes, it's considered an ethnicity to be Jewish. So like you can be Jewish but not partake in the religion, if that makes sense.
So what, did you just be Israeli?
You'd be ethnically Jewish. Does that make sense to you?
Kinda.
So like, it's an
Jewish
actual
but not
ethnicity.
Jewish?
Yeah. Like I think I even saw a TikTok recently of a girl who converted to Islam.
Then she can't call herself
she was
a
Jewish.
Jew.
No, but she's ethnically still called a Jew.
You mean she's
Jewish.
Israeli?
It's not Jew.
Israeli.
Huh?
Israeli.
No, not Israeli.
Where's she from?
Jewish.
Where's she from?
What?
There's no country
I
called
don't know
Jew.
where she's from.
There's no country called Jew.
It's an ethnicity, I'm saying. There's
How?
no country called Harari, or no, there's no country called. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna go down that road, but like, I'm telling you right now. Okay, it's a thing.
Source,
Jewish
trust me, bro.
Yeah, no. Okay, people listening to this know what I'm talking about. Being Jewish is an ethnicity.
I'm a fact check.
Yeah, check that. Quick. You can be ethnically Jewish. But that's why they have a caucus, like they have a group of people and they vote as a base together. But black people right now are not like that. They don't vote as a group. Of course, like they want to say, oh, we're not a monolith or whatever. But I feel like if you really want change within, because the changes I want to see will eventually lead to like better reform for everyone. Because I feel like once you make things better for the black community, then you make things better for everyone. Because right now we're the ones who are, or at least African Americans are the ones who are being oppressed the most, and systematically oppressed. Even though people would like to believe that doesn't exist, like it's been proven or it's been shown that we're treated differently in certain aspects. Are you looking it up right now?
Yeah.
I'm right? Just say I'm right, Sarah.
But it says
what?
Religion is this article says religion is not an ethnicity, but religion can often be a force of unification in ethnic groups, which is why it's easy to get religion and ethnicity confused. Though Judaism itself is a religion, Jewish communities share more than a religion. The religion, of course, largely acts as a foundation made up of practices and ceremonies for the entire cultural and social identity of Jews. Mm-hmm. So for them, for Jews, their religious practices go hand in hand with their culture. It's like Harari, people from Harar and Islam. The original Harari practices go hand in hand with Islam because it's based on Islam. Yeah. So it's sort of similar. I can understand that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's a better way to explain it because you read it there. You know what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Whatever.
Like last time when you said that I was explaining personality versus looks was crazy, but then you literally, and I had people even in my DMs literally explaining it exactly like I did, but just in like.
No,
in a different meaning or different words.
I didn't think it was crazy. Let's just talk about that for a split second.
Okay.
I didn't think it was crazy. I just think the way that you said, like, even if my wife isn't the best looking, and I was just thinking, like, that'd be so wild if you ever said that to her.
I'm not saying that to her. I'm giving an example.
I know, but here's the thing, right? Like, I'm not saying
you literally just wanted me to clean it up to make it sound better. That's all it is.
Yeah, possibly.
But like, I was saying it bluntly. I was saying exactly what.
But I don't disagree that looks matter, because looks get your attention. That's the first thing you notice most of the time. You don't notice someone's personality, unless of course it's like online or whatever, you know. But like, yeah, if you're walking down the street, you're gonna notice somebody's looks, and you're not gonna look at someone like, yeah, she's probably a good person. Like, you're not gonna, you know what I mean?
But it's rare that you're usually walking down the street. Like usually if you do meet someone, it's usually within like a group setting. Yeah,
but I'm saying like, what okay. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but even if you're in a group setting, you're at whatever, some sort of function, when you see someone, you're not going to be like, ooh, yeah, that looks like a great personality. You're going to be like, oh, that person's cute. I should go get to know them. Yeah. On the basis of they're good looking. Yeah. Then you get to know them and you're like, her personality or his personality is not for me. I saw that. I was low key seeing the little dry patches here.
Yeah, my hands are dry.
But but at the same time, like, although looks get your attention, it's the personality that keeps you around, that wants you, that makes you want to continue to get to know that person, you know?
Okay, you know what? I think we all agree here. We're just
we do.
He's just saying it differently.
Some people genuinely value personality over looks.
Yeah,
and that's to each their own. And some people genuinely value, like, as long as you're good looking, you could have a shitty personality, and that's okay with them.
Yeah,
depends on what you want out of your person, right? But
okay,
it is what it is.
Yeah, so we're all on the same page here.
Yeah, but back to what we were saying.
So yeah, that thing. So that's the ultimate goal: being able to kind of organize into a larger group so that our votes are actually considered when it comes to larger things that will affect us as a community.
Yeah, and I think aside from like banding together and just like stopping the divide, it's just like we just have to do better as a community.
Yeah.
Like I know that a lot of people are on that whole like let's build generational wealth for our future kids.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we were at a disadvantage. Our friends on the other side, the whites, they had a very the whites they had an advantage. Yeah. They had a head start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we are in that headspace now, which is good, as we should.
Yeah.
Of building generational wealth. And I think like as long as we, and it's hard, you know what I mean? Because I feel like in the States and maybe in Canada and some other places where black people are villainized just purely on the fact that they're black.
Yeah.
It's hard because you could literally be like, I don't know if you've been getting this on TikTok, but like sometimes it's like people that served in the military get pulled over by a cop and the cop is so rude to them just because they're black until they know that what their status is and they're like, oh, sorry. Like, I apologize. They make it hard for us to do better. Yeah,
but at that point, that goes back to why I feel like we need to ultimately, as a community, start to form together as like a large group, even though we all have different opinions and like we don't all we may not be on the same page for a lot of things. It's still important to, and I'm pretty sure that's probably the same case with people within the Jewish community, but they still all make sure to get together as a group. Which is, I know it sounds impossible, but if other communities can do it, we can do it too, and become formidable enough that politicians start to take the whole community, the community as a whole, more seriously, so that because once they start doing that, then you'll start seeing things change in like lower income neighborhoods where unfortunately there's a disproportionately larger population of black people within those communities just because of like systematic oppression and us being, or the African American community being held back for so many years. And if once they realize, oh shoot, like their votes, we might lose the vote if we don't make changes that will benefit their community, then you'll start to see a lot of larger changes and more like changes that you can actually see make a difference.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like it goes back to what Joe Biden said at one point. Remember, he's like speaking to, I think it's Charlemagne. He had an interview with him. I think it was with Charlemagne, and he's like, it's like if you don't vote for us, are you even black? Or something like. I'm paraphrasing. I forget the exact line, but it was basically that. And that's how they think of the black community right now. They're like, they're just gonna vote for us. Like they're not smart enough to get together and make demands, because ultimately they're just going to vote for the Democrats because they feel like Democrats are better than the Republicans. And this is I'm going to go back to saying this is a very American-centric conversation because that's where a lot of the issues that I want to see change are currently taking place.
It's because it's the most apparent. That's
what it's the most apparent, yeah.
But and also, like, sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, like, we need to see more black people in power. And I know it's hard because it's hard to get to those positions. And I feel like once certain black people do get to like these positions of power, they don't really like support their people. They just turn a blind eye.
Yeah, because a lot of people are in those positions are Daniel Caesars.
I know,
they're trying to appease the white man.
I know, and that's the toughest pill to swallow is when you see like. But I think on the contrary, when you're in this position of power and someone's like, oh, it's a black person, let me go get my hand out.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship, right? Like,
a lot of that is just to like pacify the black community, be like, oh, just put a black man up there, then they won't even think about it.
Yeah, it's to fit the quota.
Yeah, and we always make those jokes, being like, oh, it's a black guy, I'm voting for him, I don't care what he says.
Yeah. but that's the thing, right? Like, I think when we celebrate these black people in power, it's like, are they really representing us though? Is it the best person that we could nominate?
You have to be extra critical of them.
Exactly. And I think there are so many examples. Like, I could think of some right now, but then we'll be here all night talking about it. But like, Ilhan Umar is her name. Yeah. I think she's like she has some position in. She's the Senate. She holds the seat in the Senate, I believe, or is it in the House for Minnesota? Yeah. I think it's the Senate. But like, I'm pretty sure she holds the Senate, one of the Senate seats for Minnesota, because there's 2 seats for each state. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, she was so celebrated. She's a hijabi Muslim. Yeah. Somali woman, and like that's such a big deal. I don't think people actually realize that's a big deal. But then sometimes you hear some of the things that she says, and you're like, because they have to play ball ultimately, right? Yeah, but why? Why do we have to appease to someone who doesn't have the same morals and values that we do just to be accepted? Like, did they accept her because of her beliefs, or did they accept her because she met the quota? Yeah. She's a triple threat. She's black, she's Muslim, and she's a woman. Yeah, but being Muslim, especially politically, like trying to be a politician and be a Muslim and still hold up those same values, especially in Western society or Western countries, is almost impossible. You could be a Republican. You could be even as a Republican. No, Republicans will cast you out. What are you talking about? They think of Muslims as like the antithesis to Christianity. Well, and they're very like Christian focused. But a lot of what they party, right? Aside from the religious aspect, a lot of what they are preaching kind of. No, even though they feel, even they don't look into it, right? They can look into it and be like, oh, a lot of the values we uphold are very similar, but they don't see that. They don't care. Even if they do see that, they don't care. They still need a villain. They need someone to vilify. Yeah. So they will continue to use the Muslim community as that like not crutch, but like that punching bag, because they know they can rile up their voter base if they just start like attacking a random Muslim person. Yeah. And saying, oh, like, because that's what they do with Ilhan Umar, right? They literally use her as like a punching bag, being like, or as someone to kind of rile up their base on like being like, oh, she's trying to implement Sharia law into America, guys. Gotta vote against her. So stupid. Yeah. But but my thing is like, if you're going to take on that responsibility of having a position of power as a black Muslim woman, stand your ground. Yeah. Stand your ground. Like, we don't want no weak, and I'm not calling her weak, but the example is, if you're gonna be a representative for the black community, that's a huge deal. You better not be weak. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I understand. You can't be, because then it's like if you're not gonna stand for anything, you're gonna fall for anything. Or everything, sorry. Yeah, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but that's really hard, man. It's hard, but like... And like, no, it's not only the fact that it's really hard. I'm trying to think like, when you were saying that, I'm trying to think like, but how would you stay in that seat? Because the moment people start hearing things like, oh, that's not why... Because to get to that seat, I feel like she would have had to already sell certain ideas that maybe not fall in line with what she truly believes, but she knew it would get her some type of voter base, which is what a lot of politicians do. They lie to you, or they don't lie. Yeah, they lie to you, or they say what they want, what you think, what they think you want to hear. But my thing is, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but like a perfect example of standing your ground and then being respected for it is look at the rules in Qatar during the World Cup. Yeah, people were like having mental breakdowns that they couldn't drink alcohol during these games. That's literally in their country. But still, if you think about it, a lot of people left that like they feel like they're enlightened now. A lot of people converted to Islam because of that. Yeah, they saw the beauty of Islam within a Muslim country. Yeah, But I'm not saying just because you're a Muslim person in power that you have to enforce the rules of the religion on people. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying you should never sell your soul short just to appease to people who don't even believe in the same things as you.
Yeah. It's really hard to go back to, I'm guessing this is still all around like the same example as Wilhelm. Like in a 2-party state or 2-party country, it's really hard to do that because the only other option, you're going to be, they're so dogmatic in both parties that like if you don't fall in line with their views or you don't fall in line at all, you're almost going to be immediately cast out. And like your only other option is either a Republican or independent, and like independents are like 2% of the vote, right? So that's why I say you kind of have to play if you want to be in that. That's why ultimately I feel like you can't really be in it. But if you are in it, then you kind of have to play
Muslim,
ball.
But you can still be black and do it.
Yeah, black person for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what ultimately I would want to see, right? Like more black representation in the.
And not just in politics.
In politics.
Not just in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the tech industries, positions of power. How many times have I joked around and said like, oh, we need to get some of our own in TikToks?
Yeah. Well, that's actually a big thing, a big issue with the current innovations being made within the technology community.
The tech space?
Tech space is that like now you're dealing with a lot of AI and like machine learning. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the people who are writing this and a lot of the data that they're training them on are their own programmers who majority of them are white. So a lot of the programs and the AI that they're working with aren't really catered in any way towards black people. So like even like certain technology when it comes to like taking pictures, it would be tuned to like white skin tones.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times whenever it takes a picture of black people, sometimes it'll be too blown out or they'll make the person look 10 shades darker than they really are.
Right.
But that's only because a lot of the machine learning and the programming and the software that goes into those cameras, because whenever you take a picture on your camera, it has some type of processing that it goes through.
Exactly.
It doesn't really look best on black people.
Right.
Because it's tuned towards lighter skin tones. Mm-hmm. So that's another way why black representation really would be a positive thing within that tech and within the tech space as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually maybe something not critical of the African American culture, but like something you'd want to see more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because you were asking like what are some things that you'd want to see.
Yeah. Well, like, and the other thing was what you mentioned there where we invest more into like black communities.
Yeah.
Or black businesses.
Yes.
Because you want to see them. And unfortunately, there's that whole stereotype of like black people, like the quality is always going to be less. But
what?
Yeah, there's always that joke. Like people say like, oh, when people are like, oh, you got that good lawyer, you got that white lawyer, right? Or you go to that good bank, right? You go to the white bank or whatever. Even though there are a lot of independent black banks across the country, people would not want to put their money in there because they ultimately feel like it's going to be, it has lesser value for some, just because a black person owns it. And you don't know about that stereotype?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Oh, well, and unfortunately there are cases where like people are like, oh, and whenever something happens within a black business where they find out like that black business was actually doing some shady stuff, then the people use that to reinforce that stereotype and say, oh, this is why we don't deal with black businesses because they're always just going to look for a come up and try and take our money and short us in some way.
Do better.
Yeah, but I feel like as long as we can just continue to push towards spending within the black community, then those people we weeded out, and then like the what did they say? The cream will rise to the top. Yeah.
Sure.
You never heard that statement? What?
No.
Or the cream of the crop?
Yeah, that I've heard.
Okay,
but I
yeah.
never understood what that meant.
Because when fat separates, the cream rises to the top. So it's like the best part because the fat is tasty. That's where that's. You never. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Just to kind of finish off, this is kind of a downer when it comes to our aspirations for the African American community, because this deals with an African American man called Tyre Nichols, who was beat up and ultimately murdered by 5 black officers.
My mind was blown when I saw that video, by the way. Like, I was like...
I think the whole black community was like, we don't know how to react to this. And it showed.
I have something to say.
What?
I think I sent you a TikTok about this, but what I was going to say before all this was the conversation doesn't have to end here. I mean, if you guys genuinely enjoy this type of conversation, it's Black History Month, so we can further speak on this. We can talk about colorism within the black community and so on and so on and so on. Like, there's so many different topics to
even
to
the
speak
issues
on.
within black people within the Muslim community.
Oh yeah. Okay, you know what? Maybe we will do like
continue
a
the conversation part
exactly.
2. Yeah.
But back to Tyre Nichols. One thing that I was like, oh my God, was the swiftness in the sentencing of these cops.
Yeah.
When other
not sentences, but the charging.
The charges. When other cases where white cops like blatantly killed someone, it's on camera, and they're like, oh, we don't know what happened.
Well, like, okay.
Or they're suspended on or they're on like desk duty or administration leave or something. Yeah. It's so wild. But these ones were charged in in a second.
I think this one, I know people are making that argument, and you're making that argument now, but I do feel like this is different.
Why?
Because first off, it's because when they found the footage kind of changed everything. That's what ultimately got them fired immediately.
Yeah. Because
when that footage showed up, it was completely opposite to what
they reported.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just gonna preface, like, just because I commented on the fact of how fast they got charged, doesn't mean that I am supporting what they did. It's absolutely disgusting, wrong, and I'm like, it actually broke my heart watching that video.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like I'm separating the event from the sentencing, like two separate events here. That part I thought was very I was like, interesting. But back to what you were saying, sorry.
And I think we'll ultimately see if this sets a precedence in the future for how fast cops are either fired or charged. Because originally they were fired and then they were charged afterwards.
Yeah.
Because they had the convenience store, or there was some third camera, like a store camera, that caught the whole thing on and like clear as day exactly what was happening. And it was also the addition of the fact that after they like basically beat him to death, they like threw him in a car and started like cheering and like giving each other high fives and talking about like they're boasting about it. And the fact that the paramedics pulled up and didn't administer any aid for like the first 20 minutes.
So what, did they just sit there?
They just sat there and talked to the cops. That's what the cops were boasting about it. And the fire truck did nothing either. So and those people got, I believe, either fired or are put like on leave for now or something like that. And there was a 6th cop that was fired, I think either today or yesterday, like just recently. But yeah, it was just so blatant, and the fact that they lied on their report, like it was clear as day that wrong was done here.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they were fired immediately, right?
I mean, as they should be. They deserve it.
Yeah. And then, of course, this should hopefully set a precedence in the future to be like, okay, whenever there are cases where police are clearly abusing their power, that the action should be taken right away. And, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I feel like these are the moments where I'm like, do better. Like, that's an example of someone who's in a position of power and they abuse their power. They don't use it for good.
And I think what it really showed was that it has nothing to do, well, it has a lot to do with race, but like it also has a lot to do with the issue with the police and their the amount of power they have and how they know that there's almost no consequences to their actions. I don't know what the word is for that.
It's like relates back to the Stanford experiment. Remember that one that we talked about before? Yeah. It's almost like when you have that uniform on, you don't even see yourself you see everyone else, civilians, as subhuman. Like they're less than you. You feel greater than.
Also the fact that there's such a culture, a toxic culture built up within the police community that they felt like no matter what they did, there wouldn't really be any real consequences.
Yeah.
And the most they would get is like paid leave, so they get paid to like not be at work basically.
Right.
And it shows how extreme that idea got to where they just felt like they could do whatever they want. Especially even with that girl recently, that female cop who ended up like sleeping with half of her precinct.
Yeah.
You know, because they feel like they have no consequences. They feel like they have the ultimate power. No one can really say anything to them, or whatever they do, they're not going to have any consequences for it.
I know, and people, I feel like when they see things like this in the news, like they're so quick to be like, defund the police, defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should restructure the police, honestly, like go through a new training program.
Police reform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if defunding, like having less cops in the out in society, I don't know if that's going to solve the problem.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when they say defund the police, first off, it's never smart to fully defund the police, but they mean like take some of those funds where these police are buying tanks and buying like,
why does a police officer
bazookas?
Why do they need that?
They're literally buying like military grade weapons.
Why?
And because they have a surplus. Because the thing is, they get a budget, right? And if they don't spend that whole budget, they get less money the next year.
Yeah. And
because these states are just throwing money at them, they're just buying whatever because they have to spend that money, or they feel like they have to spend that money. But what people are saying is like, okay, take all that excess money you're giving them and put it towards resources that will bring up the whole community.
Yeah.
So ultimately there's less crime, like mental health services, and like after school programs, and things that will support everyone in the community, that so there wouldn't be a need for that many police in the community.
Right. And
that could solve so many issues. And I feel like the reason that it does come down a little bit to racism, where I feel like because a lot of these communities are majority black, then they don't really feel like they need to invest as much into them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I feel like that's what I feel like when they mean when they mention defund the police. It's just really bad marketing. Yeah. When you say defund the police, anyone who has no context of what you mean, they're gonna be like, wait, you want to take away cops? What do you mean? And of course, a lot of the right-wing news will take it to the extreme and say they want to abolish cops and take them away completely. So
that's a little unhinged. I just think police reform is what needs to be focused on, because
and it shows that like, this is even if they're black, they're police first. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And this is an example, right? Where, their identity goes from, they don't even look at their race anymore. They look at their title.
Because it's almost like they become a unit or a team, or
unified, maybe.
Unified. It's that whole blue line thing. I don't know what is the thin blue line. Like they identify with that so much that they forget that they also have the identity of being black. Yeah, yeah. So, but that whole situation was sad. The fact that it was so shocking, and like the black people was so confused on like how could this even happen? Right. That remember when they said, "Oh, we're gonna release the footage." Cities were literally planning, like preempting, or not preempting. They were like setting up for like riots in the street. They were like boarding up their stores. People were boarding up their stores. They were ready for people to get into the streets and start like tearing stuff apart. But once the footage was released, like there was none of that happened. There was no rioting. Just like, I think it also is a combination of just the community being tired of this happening again and again and nothing being done.
It just hurts more now to see that it was black cops.
Exactly. And that on top of it, just like was just gut wrenching for, I'm pretty sure the whole African American community.
100%.
Yeah. And hopefully we see some real change that comes from this.
Sometimes I feel like being hopeful, it gets exhausting because you don't really see the immediate change. Yeah. But keeping that hope alive is also a good thing, and being patient and really just like hoping for the best.
Yeah. And I do see, to kind of go back to like a lot of rappers now are, especially the ones who came out with a lot of the very aggressive, aggressively,
like the violent
music and lyrics that would almost spur on more violence.
The ones that promoted like gang violence,
exactly,
and drugs, and
a lot of those rappers
stuff.
now are starting to like see the errors of their ways, and they're starting to take more responsibility and being like, because initially whenever people would criticize them and say like, oh, you're just perpetuating this and you're glorifying it and you're pushing other people to want to do it and ultimately end up doing it, and you're just making it worse. They're starting to realize that, oh yeah, actually I feel like I did make it worse, and they're trying to like almost repent from it and now bring a more positive light to the community. Like I think I watched, the reason I mentioned that is because there was a rapper recently who came out with a documentary from Billboard. I think his name was NBA Youngboy. Yeah, he came out with a documentary recently. Now he's under house arrest for I think like gun charges. But because of that, it gave him time to think. And the main thing he wanted to take, or us to take away, was that like he feels like his music really was like a detriment to the African American community or his communities that he was within. And now he wants to give back to the community in a more positive way, and almost disavow, or what he used to say, not disavow, but like teach people the errors of his ways.
Yeah, he can't take it back because it's already out there.
Yeah, but at least let his community know that like, nah, this is not the way to think, guys. We should try to build together instead of destroy each other. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a positive note, I guess, to get away from it.
I guess so. I mean,
I know we went on a little long here today.
Yeah, that's okay. It happens.
We'll definitely have to do like some type of part 2. Maybe now that we've opened this conversation, we'll see what people say. We can maybe go back onto not go back on what we say, but like go a little deeper into some of these topics.
If you guys want us to cover something specific, let us know. Either DM us, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment, and we can use it in our part 2.
Yeah.
But I really liked this conversation. It was good.
Okay, guys. So remember again if you like this conversation and you want to give your input on it, you can always leave a comment down below. And if you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel to hear more conversations like this, hopefully. And we'll see y'all next week. Bye.